Hello there! You're watching Wilhelm Miniatures. Before I start this video, I would like to share a project with you, which is my first ever Kickstarter. And in the Kickstarter, I am releasing these 4 resin characters. So yeah, you can follow the link down in the description to check it out. In this episode, I'm making a backdrop from an old book. And why I decided to make this is that I needed something nice to use when I photographed my small gang of fantasy miniatures for the Kickstarter. In the beginning of this project, it was not really supposed to be a backdrop. It was supposed to be more of a book box diorama that I could open and close. But as you can see, that's not what this turns into. So in the beginning of the video, you will see that it's a little bit messy. But I still think it's fun to include the beginning of the video where I ended up changing my mind because, yeah, projects often change. I have this beautiful looking old book that I want to use as a base for my project. So what I want to do is glue the book shut and then cut out a piece so that the book is hollow and make some texture, maybe some buildings or something sticking out from the inside of the book. So I think I want to open the book about halfway. So to make sure that the entire book doesn't get glued shut and that I have to cut it open, I've put in a piece of pizza paper or like baking paper, which is a non-stick paper, and I hope that the Mod Podge is not going to stick to it. So what I want to do now is just to brush a thick layer of glue on the pages. All right, I have smeared glue on the sides of each of the pages, and I hope this will be enough to keep the book closed. All right, I've left the book to dry for about an hour or so, so let's see if this works. All right, so I was lucky when it came to the baking paper or pizza paper, as it just didn't stick at all. So what I think will work, or what I hope will work, is just to start cutting out the pages. But yeah, I'm not making it straight or anything to begin with. I just want to see how this works. Yeah, probably have to do this for a while, but I think I'm just going to cut further and further into the book and just lift up the pages as I go. Alright, it turns out that this is not the way to make a book box. Maybe I should have used some type of power tool or something instead, but I don't have that, and now I have already gone this far, and it took like forever just to get the pages, or these few pages, out, and I have started to rip the edges. So there will be a change of plans. So first I need to find a way to keep this book permanently open at 90 degrees. And super glue might be the way to go here, but I want the outside to look nice, so maybe I can try on the inside. I was going to pour a little bit of Mod Podge onto the page to stiffen it up a little bit, and I poured half the bottle instead. So, yep. I have no idea what I'm going to do with that, but yeah, to begin with, I can at least smear it around a little bit. Of course, one thing that I know I'm going to do is to add a lot of texture. So here I have my garden dirt. Yeah, I'm going to layer the texture. So now, even before I know what I'm going to do, there's probably going to be some texture down here. I've set this project aside for a couple of weeks because I wasn't sure how I wanted to proceed. I'm going to use some air drying clay to make some rock texture and some stalagmites. I think I would have preferred to use polymer clay for this. But yeah, then I would have to stick the book in the oven to bake it, and I'm not sure if I can bake a book. I'm not really sure how to approach this, and I don't know if the clay will stick to the book, but I'm just going to push some in, and if it doesn't stick, I'm going to come in with some Mod Podge or PVA glue. To make these stick, I'm basically putting water onto my book, which can go many ways. These tiny pieces of paper just get everywhere because, yeah, as you saw previously, I ripped up this book trying to carve out its center. And now they just get everywhere. So before I add any more texture details, stalagmites, I'm just covering the pages with my nasty pot of Mod Podge. This will hopefully just keep them in place and also, yeah, maybe help secure the clay. My clay is almost starting to dry up, so I decided just to use everything. Now I've used up the last of the clay, and I need to smooth out some of the fingerprints and, yeah, remove some of the fingerprints and smooth out my work. So I will use water and a brush and also my fingers to smooth out the worst ones. This is going to take forever to dry, so I might as well start texturing it now instead of texturing it later and then having to wait even longer for it to dry. So here I'm grabbing my garden earth and some roots. I'm just going to make like a texture paste to put directly down onto the page. And I kind of like the texture of the clay. But it might be nice to have a little sand texture here and there, so I will work that in, but not all over. Mainly where I still have visible paper. And I think more on the floor than on the wall. But before I start painting, I want to cover up the edges because I want the sides of the book to be book colored when I'm done. Alright, I'm going to base coat the piece with a mix of acrylic gesso and some cheap black paint. This will give me a nice even colored base coat, and it will also show me if there's any areas I need to fix up before I properly paint it. For example, if I have some fingerprints or if some of the book pages are still showing. Now that everything is a flat gray color, I kind of feel like this backdrop is coming together. And it actually looks quite nice in this color. So what I think I will do is, just keep it like this. So using the same colors, I'm just going to paint in some light and shadow, starting with a darker gray for the shadows. I think I'm going to go back and forth between dark and light to build up the values on this piece. So I'm just grabbing another brush to make a lighter gray for the highlights. And it's nice to have two brushes because then I can work with them at the same time. And I will focus this lighter color on the front of the stalactites. I found a bunch of shades and a dark contrast paint that I'm going to use. And I've also picked not just black, I picked a few different colors because I know that when I get around to putting some miniatures on here and use the display, their bases will most likely not be just black and white. I usually add some colors onto my basing, so here I have, for example, a little bit of green, which I think will be Very nice. I used the same white gesso to go over everything with like a very light dry brush, just to highlight all the little grains here and there, and also the tips of the stalactites. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. If you would like to get your hands on some alternative fantasy miniatures for your tabletop army or your next dungeon crawl, follow the Kickstarter link in the description and check out my ongoing Kickstarter. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next episode.